Hey everybody, and welcome to Take a Deep Breath. In today's video we are answering the most asked question on this channel and possibly the most misunderstood thing when it comes to breath work: mouth or nose. Let's get stuck straight in. If you're new here, hi, my name is Mike. I'm a breathwork coach and I have my own podcast called Breathcast. And on this channel, we put out information about breathing as well as different breathing exercises. So mouth or nose. So we're going to talk about the purpose of the nose, the effects of mouth breathing, exercises versus non-exercises, and when to be a mouth breather. Just before we go any further, I just want to say thank you to today's sponsor Aerofit, but more about them a little bit later on. Okay, so first of all, I want to get stuck into the purpose of our schnoz, of our nose, of this thing that sticks out of our face. What is it? I didn't even know there was a difference between mouth and nose breathing. It's a hole, right? We're breathing in, we're breathing out. What difference does it make? Actually, it makes a huge difference. The nose is not just a hole. There are sinus cavities here. The nose, if it's too cold outside, it's going to warm the air. The mucus and all the lovely goo, it helps clean all the rubbish out of the air for us. The hairs in the nose, they're a filtering mechanism. And what's very, very cool is your nose releases something called nasal nitric oxide, which is a molecule that sterilizes the air, so it cleans the air. Okay, so we know that there's loads of benefits associated with being a nose breather, but actually what happens if I'm a mouth breather? What are the effects of that? So what I want to do is cut to a clip from my podcast, Breathcast, where I get to interview all different experts, and this is a clip from Mr. James Nestor. He is the author of Breath, The New Science of a Lost Art, a New York Times best-selling book, and James plugged up his nose for 10 days. Let's see what he has to say about that.
Awful idea. I'm glad we did it in the end. I had been talking with the chief of rhinology research at Stanford, who had been complaining how no one was paying attention to the nose. He's like, this is such an essential organ. And he knew how bad mouth breathing was, but nobody really knew how quickly the problems associated with mouth breathing, respiratory distress, the fatigue, the increased chance of having infections. No one knew how quickly that came on. I volunteered I said, well, why don't we do an experiment? So for 10 days, we had silicone plugs up our nose, tape over them so we could get absolutely no air up our nose. We were forced to breathe through our mouth. And within a night, we both started snoring. We hadn't snored before. A couple nights after that, we were snoring 4 hours throughout the night. We got sleep apnea as well. We started choking on ourselves. We were fatigued, neurotic, crazy. All the other, there are subjective markers, but then there's real data, and it's the real data that I tried to show. My blood pressure went up about 15 points just by changing the way in which I breathed. But the snoring and sleep data I just thought was fascinating. And it's something I don't think a lot of people are talking about is how the pathway in which you take air it's directly related to snoring and sleep apnea. And the good part about this is we were then able to spend 10 days just breathing through our noses. So we were using sleep tape at night. Whenever we were walking around, we were being very conscious to only breathe through our noses. Snoring went away. Sleep apnea completely went away. We felt just reborn. Endurance, performance, recovery went up. Blood pressure immediately shot down, which I thought was so interesting.
Okay, so case closed, right? So we just found out that nose is amazing, does all these wonderful things. Mouth breathing's stressing us out, it's raising our blood pressure, it's drying our mouth out, it's a stressful breath. So surely that is it, case closed. Not quite. When I first heard about mouth breathing being bad, it really stressed me out because I was like, I didn't know this, and now I need to make sure that I am nose breathing all the time, and I got a little bit obsessed with it. Fortunately, I get to interview loads of top breathing experts, and I get to spend all my time thinking about this, and I see, hang on a second, there's so many breathing exercises using your mouth. They're doing it all wrong. Oh my God, what's wrong with these people? But the most misunderstood about breath work is different breathing exercises are responsible for different things. And the best analogy I can come up with here is you go to the gym, you're going to lift some weights, you're going to lift some dumbbells, but actually when you get back to your desk, you're not going to continue doing those same exercises. You did your exercises in a very specific time frame, in a specific place with a specific purpose. How many times can you say specific? And this is what I think a lot of people get misunderstood and confused about, is how I breathe throughout the day is different to how I breathe with breathing exercises. So yes, nose is good and mouth is bad, and we should be breathing during our sleep through our nose, but actually it's okay to do some breathing exercises using the mouth, as long as your base is in place, and that's the important thing. Okay, so controversial. When should I be a mouth breather? Before we go any further, I want to say thank you to today's sponsor. Today's sponsor is Aerofit. Aerofit is a wonderful company that produces these devices that connect to your phone via Bluetooth, and you can change the resistance of the inhale and the exhale. You think, well, why the hell would I want to do that? Well, basically, we've got something called inspiratory muscle training, and our diaphragm is a muscle like every other muscle in our body, but it's possibly one of the most underused muscles. And because we sit in poor posture all day and we don't move maybe as much as we should do, our diaphragm is not as developed as it possibly should be. And so something like this with some resistance, just for a few minutes a day. I've been using this now for a little while, and I have to say I've really enjoyed the benefits of this. The app's really fun. You can play along with some different games, and actually it helps me just feel like my core's getting a bit stronger. Highly recommend having a look at their website. I've got an affiliate link down below, so if you're interested, you can click on that and follow more and check out what's going on with Aerofit. Thank you. Okay, let's now talk a little bit about the benefits of mouth breathing. Now, just uttering those three words are enough to send shivers down the spines of potato and oxygen advantage people. But don't worry, bear with me. And actually, before I go any further, let's just cut to a clip from Dan Brulé from our podcast, where Dan, who's been in the breathwork industry for 40 years and has coached people such as Tony Robbins, will just share a little bit about some of the benefits of mouth breathing. It feels so good to go out through the mouth. Why is that so much more satisfying than using the nose?
The ah sound is a sound of pleasure. It's a sound of relaxation. And if you're also incorporating that ujjayi sound, that stimulates the vagus nerve, it adds even more to it. But everybody you mentioned, Buteyko, oxygen advantage, and that end of the spectrum, you're on one end of the spectrum with all those similar approaches and schools and styles, right? There's the other end of the spectrum, which you actually you have a temporary imbalance physiologically, chemically, because that's not your focus. That's not the benefit you're after. When you get into the other end of the spectrum, spiritual, transformational, you can send your body out of whack physiologically, temporarily, but it's a small price to pay to uncover some powerful spiritual power, or to enter into a beautiful state that you couldn't access through nose breathing, breath control, breath holding.
So let's just do a quick bit about when and when not to mouth breathe. So specific breathing exercises like the Wim Hof or the Inner Fire, or just breath of fire breathing exercises, you are choosing to stress yourself a little bit for a small period of the day. And as long as you are breathing functionally throughout the day, your nose breathing, then actually those sort of exercises are totally fine and actually have some really good benefits. Talking, we're going to be mouth breathing when we're talking. Singing, swimming's a great one. You know, you're going to be mouth breathing when you're swimming. Yawning, sighing, and high intensity training I've put in here as well, because at a certain point, if you're really pushing your cardio, you're going to exceed the demands of the oxygen that your body can get in through mouth or nose. And so some people, when they get to HIIT stage, but when not to mouth breathe, at the gym, you'll be horrified next time you go to the gym now and you see somebody just warming up on the cross trainer or the treadmill. They've gone straight to mouth. So actually, with my dad as an example, he would tell me that he would cycle with his mouth open the entire time. And then over time, he would watch some of my work and he would then say, I've been cycling, 20% of the time now, half of the time with my mouth closed. And I was like, I just keep my mouth closed the entire time, because he built up his tolerance and got used to being a functional nose breather. Sitting and watching TV, our mouth should be shut. When we're sleeping, we can mouth tape it. It sounds dangerous, but it's very, very safe. And I'll link to a video so you can learn more about mouth taping and get a much deeper, better sleep. When we're going upstairs, climbing a hill, and when we want to be calmer, we should think about using our nose. So bit there when to use the mouth and a bit there when not to use the mouth. And hopefully now you're starting to get that understanding of the difference between mouth and nose and when one is good and when we should use the other. So if you're interested in knowing more, I do have my Breathwork functional breathing course out where over a 5-week period, I'm going to go through with you step by step how to become a functional breather the way nature intended, reduce stress, reduce anxiety, help lower blood pressure, help improve heart rate variability, help improve your sleep. If that sounds like something that's interesting to you, then click on the link below and you can find out more about my course. Okay, so remember, we want to be breathing using our nose as much as possible, getting that foundation rock solid, but there will be times when you want to use some certain stressful stressor breather exercises to induce certain states, and that's okay as long as you know that you go back to nose again. Afterwards, we love a good sigh. I love a good yawn, and actually, just using your mouth and understanding the differences and when to do that is really, really powerful. If you did enjoy this video, you might be interested in this breathing exercise, or if you want to learn more about functional breathing, click on this link here as well. Thanks so much. Cheers.